We just got one or two more people who are just about to come in. There we are. And we'll get underway, I believe. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Jonathan Gill. I'm Assistant Principal Middle School, and this is Tracey Deasy, our Head of Year 7. I'll also introduce a couple of other people. I know that we might do that later, but Peter Reddy, our Assistant Principal Teaching and Learning, Mrs. Kidd and Mrs. Ryan, two of our Year 7 teachers here coming along to be involved, and Mr. Callboy, our Principal, coming along for this evening. Just before I get underway, I'd just like to acknowledge the Darumble people as the first custodians of the land on which we gather, and we pay respect to their elders past, present, and extend that respect to all First Nations people gathered here today. And as we always do as part of our Catholic community, we'll join in prayer. This is our college prayer. It's a couple of years old, and it builds on some of the key themes of our college. So in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Loving God, grant me the courage of St. Brendan to journey beyond the familiar and into the unknown, the conviction of Blessed Edmund to liberate the marginalised, the compassion of Christ to go forth with love, and the faith not to doubt that it will be given. Amen. St. Brendan, pray with us. Lady of Perpetual Help, and we live Jesus in our hearts. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to Tracey, who's going to run us through most of the night, and I'll be back later for some NAPLAN information.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming out tonight. I thought it was really important that we gathered and just had a chat through what we do here in Year 7 and how you can navigate some of the communication channels and some of the different apps that we have here at the college. So feel free to take any photos of the slides tonight if you do want to take them. Here are my contact details as well as Jonathan. What I thought was really important to start with is just a bit of our curriculum overview of just our core subjects. So here at the college, you will actually get a report card every single term. So unlike primary school where you get it each semester, you're going to get a snapshot in term 1 and term 3, and then you'll get full comments in term 2 and term 4. What's really important to note though is that we will have assessment right up until the very end of term. So traditionally at primary school, the week before Easter or just before Christmas, you might have been doing some different activities, but here at high school, we can have assessment on the very last day. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're planning holidays. Our core subjects, this is their overview for the 12 months. So when we're looking at religion, you can see that it's broken into the 4 terms, what the topics are, and what type of assessment that your sons will have. So as an example, in term 1, they have 2 online exams. These online exams are great. They're always at the end of term, and he has a part A, which is a 50 questions, and then a paragraph response for part B. The only thing that differs here in our religion curriculum is our civics and citizenship, which takes place in term 3. So that's an extra little bit that we do that we're mandated to deliver to the boys, and they do a quick, short online exam for that as well. If we move on into English, you can see that they're going to be busy all year. So we've got our assessment down the bottom. This term, being term 1, we're looking at that NAPLAN. We're using the text Wonder. Along with our English curriculum, all of your sons have access to log into our online Literacy Planet. So this Literacy Planet, he's got his login, he's got his password, and you should be seeing him do work on this at home. For most of our English classes, a fair chunk of his homework is actually going to be doing work on this Literacy Planet. So when he is saying, I've got this computer and it looks like a bit of a game, it's probably a good chance he's actually doing some schoolwork at the same time. If we skip over to humanities, so humanities is split into history and geography. They do a semester of each. So if your son's in history in term 1, he'll be doing geography in term 3. So again, we have a midterm exams for both of the first lots of assessment as well as an end of term. And then in term 2 or term 4, he will be doing an assignment. So it'll either be an oral presentation or he'll be creating his town. Our maths curriculum is also supported by an electronic subscription platform, which is MathSpace. So again, for homework, he will be saying to you, I need to do some work on my computer. There's a pretty good chance that he will have some MathSpace work to do. So they'll be issued with a login and a password. I know all of the English boys have already got that login and password, and I'd be fairly confident that the maths boys have got that as well by now. But as you can see with maths, we'll have an exam roughly week 5, and then again in that last week of term. And that goes across the whole 4 terms. And then we have science. So science has their textbook, which is online. So again, he'll be able to access that. So he doesn't need to carry the big heavy textbook like you would be expecting him to do. The teacher will set the work, he'll be able to access that online. And again, each one of the chapters are listed up there as to what they're doing each term. And it also gives you a chance to be able to have a chat to him about what's going on here. All of their science is an end of term exam. So they're our core subjects that we do here at St Brendan's. Then we're followed into our electives. And our electives run a little bit differently. So we have semester-long electives, and that's for term 1 and term 2, or term 3 and term 4. The ones that run for the semester is HPE and Man Arts. So your HPE, he has his prac uniform, he gets changed. The teacher communicates generally through to home as to when those prac lessons are going to be. My suggestion is if you're doing HPE, every Monday bring your uniform, take it home after you've done it. That way you're not going to forget it. It can live in the locker, and then he can get changed here at school as needed. Man Arts is split into woodwork and metalwork. Not necessarily in that order, but he will make a wood project and he will do a metal project as well. Then we have some term long, and these generally go for that 9 or 10 weeks, however long our term is here at school. So he'll do agriculture, he will do contemporary ensemble, so he'll do a bit of music, he'll do digital tech, which is an online computer one, and he'll have a go at art. There is a different option that we run, and that's our concept band program. Our concept band program runs for the whole year, and he's actually out of some electives to be able to make that happen. So, now that we know what happens here at school with the curriculum, we need to talk about what happens at home. So your son will get homework. Okay, generally he's going to get a weekly task. Could be anywhere from 15, maybe 20 minutes, might be a little bit longer depending on how much work he needs to catch up on. Your son's homework is going to be posted in that particular class's team. So if you are unsure as to what needs to happen, you can sit with your son on his laptop, open up the team, and you can see the homework for week 3, week 4, wherever we might be. However, the homework doesn't replace home learning. So home learning is that extra time that he can spend doing some work at home. So he can be looking at some of the notes that he's taken in class. You know what chapters he's going to be doing in science, he's welcome to read ahead, same with any of the subjects. He can also be creating different glossaries, doing all of that type of stuff, as well as using those electronic platforms to bolster the time that he needs to be doing study. One of my absolute favourites for all of the boys is just to be doing some reading. It doesn't matter what he reads. It could be a recipe, it could be a comic, it could be the newspaper that you haven't had a chance to read and you get him to read you that article. Anything that has your son reading is going to have massive benefits here at school. With homework, unfortunately for some people, comes detention. So we do have a homework policy here at St Brendan's, and if your son doesn't get his homework done, you're going to know about it, and he will be spending some lunch times making up some time for not getting some homework done. This is a gradual process we do for the 7s. By term 2, they will be in that process, and you will be made pretty aware when that's happening. Sorry, I know I'm going fast tonight, but I want to get through it so we can get through some questions. One of our new initiatives this year in Year 7 is to bring in an online safety. So we have partnered with the Alana and Madeline Foundation, and we've already rolled out the first module to your sons, and the second module got opened Monday. And this is where you can work with your son at home on how he can be safe online. This is not a program that shows you how to send an email, but it's about keeping you safe. So our first one, we talked about how you can spend time on technology, that you need to do a little bit, you need to have a break, how to schedule it. Then we're looking at kind encounters. How can you be kind online? What happens if you're not? Then we go through to cyber threats, so you're starting to look at a few scams and a few dangerous situations that he can get into. And then our final module is empathy online. So how we actually, write comments online, how we communicate. So these are all things that we just think is really important that your son is aware of to stay safe. Because this is a new program, we are going to be encouraging your sons to complete this at home. He can use that as part of his home learning. At either the end of term 1 or the beginning of term 2, across the completion of the modules, he'll be given a certificate to say that he's completed it. I actually think it's a really powerful thing for the boys to work through. I trialled this with my year 7, last year, and they had said, we wish we did that at the beginning of the year. So as things happen online, this is a really great tool that we can go back and reflect upon. Okay, here at St Brendan's, we use lots of different language that you're not familiar with from primary school. So when we talk about our assignments and exams, we talk about monitoring, we talk about conferencing, and we talk about due dates. So at primary school, these things probably were just first draft, second draft. At monitoring here at St Brendan's, that's when the teacher checks that something is actually going with their assignment. So quite often it would be, have you picked your topic? Have you got the first little part done? Have you found the pages you need to be researching from? Conferencing, generally speaking, is a completed assignment. Okay, it's the rough draft. It's the time where you get to hand it to your teacher and they get to go through it with your boys. They'll give feedback, they'll let him be able to make some changes to get it ready for due date. At this point in time is where we let parents know that your son hasn't got enough work done, hasn't completed it, or might not be on track to meet the due date. So you'll receive a PC entry about this, and it comes with a little bit of time after school to catch up. Due date is exactly that. They need to have their final copy submitted and handed in. If we get into a situation where for some reason he can't submit on due date, generally speaking, we will mark the conferencing copy, which is why it's normally a full draft. So I'm talking to the boys about this next week, so you'll start to hear that language come home as well. It's also on all of our task sheets as well, so you will see the dates very clearly set out so you know where and when. The other one that we use is exam. We no longer call them tests, we don't call them checks, we call it an exam. He will get an exam schedule as he progresses through here, and his teachers will talk about an exam. Most of our exams go for that 1 hour. However, if it is a larger exam, it can go for longer. There are some English exams, as example, where he will do some planning, then the next lesson he'll do a bit more, and then he'll do his good draft. All of these dates, though, are available for you to see. My biggest tip to any parent here at the college is to sit down with your son, go through all the due dates, and make a bit of a calendar to go on the fridge. We do some planning with the boys, but term 2 is our time that we really get involved with the planning. Term 1, we talk about it a little bit, but term 2 is where we do the full planning. So I would encourage everyone for term 1 to create that little calendar at home. Now, not only do we have stuff in the classroom, but we do have help available here at the college. We have a study club, or a study hub, and it runs out of our learning support department. This is where our educational support officers are there to supervise. This is not a chance for one-on-one tutoring, but it is a chance where your son can go work with one of our educational support officers to get some homework done, to get some more help on an assignment. We also run a tutorial. Now, tutorial is a subject-specific event that happens. So, for example, the English department runs a tutorial on a Wednesday. If your son needs extra help with that particular subject, he would need to go to the tutorial for that subject. All of our faculties run a tutorial, just at different times across the week. We also run what I like to call interest clubs. And they vary from term to term as the interest wanes and arrives. And all of those clubs are generally done during a lunchtime. Our school musical, that's after school, but like our digital tech clubs are generally during the lunch break. All of those timings are available in newsletters, on your apps, and in the school notices. And again, I'm going to explain what each one of those things are. Okay. Behaviour at St. Brendan's. So this is where we're talking about in class. We run what's called a responsible thinking process. So in class, if your son is disrupting, he will be asked some questions to reflect on what he's doing, and we would hope that that would be the end of the particular disruption. However, sometimes that's not the case. So if we get to that situation, he will attend our Responsible Thinking Centre. You will be notified through a PC entry, and while he's in the Responsible Thinking Centre, he will complete a plan. He'll need to bring that plan back to his teacher. They'll have a conversation and negotiate how that can go better next time, and then it's play on. With being in the RTC, you're aware of it, the teacher's aware of it, and then I as the head of year is aware of it, and Jonathan is also aware of it. When Jonathan and I start to come into play is when we have blue and red cards go home. A blue card is simply a monitoring card that follows your son around from class to class. Generally speaking, after you've been in the RTC 3 times, we'd pop him on a blue monitoring card just to make sure that everything is going okay in class. A blue monitoring card is not the worst thing that can ever happen, okay? It can feel bad, but it's not punitive. Obviously, we talk through it, you're aware of it at home, you get to see it each night, so it's a check-in where we can communicate. As it steps up the level and goes to Jonathan, it then becomes a red card. Generally speaking, that's because the blue card's just not working. But it's something we're all in constant communication with. All right, some other language that we use here, and I strongly recommend you take a photograph of this slide. Here at St. Brendan's, we use lots of different uniforms. I've started with hats because hats need to be worn, okay? Your son would have already told you by now that if he doesn't have his hat on, then he's going to spend some time at lunchtime. But we have a day uniform. We have a formal uniform. We have a sports uniform, and we have a house uniform. He needs to wear all of these uniforms on different occasions. So term 1 and term 4, we don't wear our tie to school every day. Term 2 and term 3, we wear it every single day. However, when we have a special day, the uniform generally changes. Tomorrow is photo day. Tomorrow he will need to wear his tie. He does not need to wear his long pants. He can wear his shorts or his longs. On Friday, we have mass. Because it's really hot, he can just wear his tie on Friday. If he has his formals, he's welcome to wear the long pants, but again, that's not mandatory this Friday. However, there are times across the year where he does need to be in his formal uniform. So Anzac Day March, he needs to have his long pants. Academic assemblies, long pants. All right, so this can get tricky, even as a parent, trying to work out what uniform we need to wear and when can sometimes be a little bit tricky. Tomorrow night is also our swimming carnival, so your son would wear his house uniform to that, which is the bright coloured shirt. Now, if there is what we call a uniform breach, so he doesn't have his belt on, he's wearing the wrong shoes, hasn't got his hat, again, you'll be notified by what's called a PC entry. So this is what they look like. So you will get an email and it just says that this particular teacher has popped in either a pastoral care entry for, and then it will say uniform, it might say for RTC, and this is where the information kind of stops. We would then ask that you email that teacher to be able to then have that dialogue about what was happening. So you can see up on the screen the time it goes in, so you are getting it pretty much in real time. So if you haven't had a PC entry for uniform by about 9:30, you're probably not going to get one that day. But if he goes to the RTC later in the day, you might get a PC entry. All of these PC entries pop up on your parent lounge or your app for you to be able to go in to check whether it's a uniform or an RTC. Okay, this brings me to the harder part of tonight. Who doesn't have the app downloaded? Everyone, fantastic. So this is our app. If you don't have it downloaded, you can go, and if you want to put it on your iPad or your tablet or whatever. This app here is your key to what happens here at the college. So all of these are parts of our apps, so you can get notices. These are just general messages. So if it's raining and a footy team has to be cancelled, you'll get it and it will pop up on your phone or your tablet, wherever you've got it. It also gives you access to your parent lounge. So in your parent lounge, you can update all of your details. If you move, change an email address, phone number, you can update all of that. That's also where you'll check his assessment dates. You'll access all of his report cards, and you'll find all of the emails for your teaching staff. There is a tab for newsletters. I think every second week we email one to you, and it ends up on the app as well. You've got your calendar, your events. These are for whole school activities, not necessarily what your son's doing that particular day. For any of our boarding families, we've got links into boarding. If your son is absent for the day, you can quickly pop it on the app. You can also upload any medical information or doctor certificates that you might have. You'll find contacts for only the key staff, so not all of your teaching staff, but if you're looking for me, I'm on the app, or if you're looking for Jonathan or Rob or Peter, they're on the app. You'll find a sports tab, which is for everything that is to do with all of our sports. So all of our timetables for all of the games, they're all available on the app. There's also a music, arts and club one. So if your son is involved in music, art or any of those interest clubs, they will also put some notifications on there as well. And that brings me to Parent Lounge. So the Parent Lounge is the big one. This is your key to how you can access everything. So Parent Lounge, like I said, you can change all of your details there. You can see your school fees. You can approve whether or not he does sport or extracurricular activities. It's where you have media permissions. So we need your permission to be able to take photographs and put them different places, and in this Parent Lounge is where you update that. This is where you check all of his assessment dates. You access his report cards. You won't get a copy of the report card. You would need to print that yourself. I will let you know now that when he finishes here at the school, you do lose access to that Parent Lounge. So my advice would be to email it to your home address as you get it, so you've got your records. In Parent Lounge is where you book our parent-teacher interviews. You can check the task sheets. If you haven't logged into your Parent Lounge, you were sent an email on the 20th of January from a really random address. So if you're like me and don't open mail from people you don't know, you can find that in your spam, and it gives you your login and a password, and then you are prompted to change it. The other key part that we have in our Parent Lounge is a resource tab. That resource tab is where you can find videos and instructions on pretty much anything that we have here at the college. To step you quickly through the Parent Lounge, this is what it looks like when you log in. So you get a much bigger screen, and I've cut the person's name off whose Parent Lounge I borrowed. So you can see all the tabs across the top and the tabs across the bottom. It does look different when you log in on your phone versus a laptop computer. I've taken all of these images from a laptop, but a phone you might just have to manipulate a little bit. The grey dots beside them means that there is something there that wasn't there when you checked in before. So this particular family, they've got some curricular activities ready to go. The best part about this though is you can actually check your son's e-diary. This is what your son sees when he checks in the morning to see what's happening. So this is a grade 11 student's e-diary, and you can see in green are all of his classes that he has for the day. You can also see those orange little things, and they're the reminders or other things that are happening. If your son has a specialist lesson, like a music lesson or a doctor's appointment, they all appear on there as well. So it allows you to be able to have a quick look from wherever you are to see what needs to happen that particular day. Okay, as you continue to go through, you'll see an absent section. That's where you can, so if your son is absent from school and you haven't had a chance to ring us or let us know, you can log into your parent lounge and you can acquit that absence. So you can say, yes, he was sick, or, oh, we'd, gone away, or something had happened. Whatever messages you put in there, our student reception filters, and then if necessary, they will let me know. So if you have had to travel very urgently and pop in there that, urgent travel for family reasons, they might let me know. If we've had some families who've had to travel for medical pretty quickly and they find this is the easiest way to communicate. Our student reception do a fantastic job of making sure that everybody knows what's going on. Then we'll step down to curricular activities, and again, this is where all of his assignments and exam dates are. Homework, we're not too stressed about that one because it's all on Teams. And then there are some daily notices. So if there is something that you need to know, you can see this in the parent lounge. And it's just a really handy thing when you get up in the morning, check your parent lounge just as you scroll through the newspaper while you're having a cup of coffee, and you can see what's happening for your son that day. My big area that I focus on though is the curricular activities. So this here up the top with the picture across the top is something very similar that you will see for your son. So you can see, and I know it's a bit small and I apologise, each one of his subjects is listed there. It tells you that he's in grade 7, and it tells you the start date and the due date. There's a column that's yellow and black with some words in it, and that tells you whether or not it's completed or whether or not it's available for preview. If it is an exam, it's generally not available for preview because there's nothing there to see other than the date. If it's an assignment, you will get to see the task sheets. So below that is an image, and it says, when you click into it, this is for a Year 7 religion, and you can see down the bottom where it's got activity details, it says Part A exam and Part B. I would encourage you that when you're working through this, that you actually check to see what is listed there. This here is an example of an assignment. So up the top is what's in your curricula, and you can see where it's got activity resources, there's a blue link. That blue link, when you click on it, brings up that task sheet that's below. That then allows you to see exactly what the task is. Generally speaking, the boys will be working in the task sheet as well. So this one I think is a dustpan or a pencil case from Man Arts. As you scroll through, all the designs are there. They'll do a costing, what they need to write. The most important part of this task sheet for you as parents is the little procedure points or the steps to success. If he works through those particular checkpoints, that's going to set him up in the best way to achieve a fantastic result. Because it will say, step 1, pick your topic. Step 2, find 3 pieces of information about this. Step 4, do this. All the way right through to due date, where to hand it in and how to hand it in. So that's the curriculum side. Then we go to extracurricular. Extracurricular is not extra school. Okay? It is all of the things that you do outside of school. So sports, music, all of this type of stuff. This particular family have got a senior and a junior son, so they were notified that both of the boys are old enough to play in the senior futsal team. From here, the parent just goes to sign up, gives all the permission. If there's fees to pay, that all comes through to you, and you can do all of this through the app as well. All right, I've done a lot of talking. I'm going to ask Pete, do you want to come and have a chat about absences from school? Sorry, I put him on the spot. Our exam assessment, yep.
Hello everybody, I'm Peter Reddy, and I didn't know I was going to speak, so this is great. Look, assessment absences, I guess the key thing to note, guys, just around assessment is, like Tracey said, assessment can really, basically, if you look at the term, from week 5 to week 10, you could expect that there's going to be assignments, exams through that period. Okay, weeks 1 to 4, you wouldn't typically see any assessment. Exam attendance is really important because there's over 1,000 boys at the school, and I guess what we try to do is maintain some very consistent standards around attendance at assessment. If boys, for example, had a reason to be away, they were sick, they had sport, that type of thing, that's absolutely approved absence, which means the boys get to do that exam when they come back. But if, say for example, they were on leave for unapproved absence, so family holiday, or they had a birthday or something that wasn't really a reason that was fair on everybody else, then that would mean they wouldn't get to sit that piece of assessment. I guess it's an equity thing. It's about fairness, just so that everyone gets the same amount of time to prepare and that type of thing. We don't sit exams early just because of academic integrity, just so that one boy sits an exam early and tells other boys. So I think the key thing is just contact Tracey, have a conversation with Tracey if there's ever reasons for being absent, and Tracey will be able to talk you through it all. But I guess it's just about trying to have a process which is fair for everybody. Anyone got any questions about any of that? Right. Thanks, Tracey.
Thanks, Pete. Well done. All right, now we've got NAPLAN, and that's Jonathan.
Okay, joys of NAPLAN coming up. It's for all Year 7s and all Year 9s. And as you see, the key dates there, Wednesday and Thursday, March 12 and March 13. We'll get all of our testing, so there's 4 tests the boys do over those 2 days during our morning session. We actually modify our times a bit so that the boys can get their tests done in a reasonable amount of time without feeling rushed and pressured. All of our tests are online, being a laptop school, which means for a start they get to do what's called tailored testing. So as they progress through the NAPLAN test when they're online, they'll do different branches. Depending on how they're progressing through a set of questions, it'll either branch them into a harder set, same level, or an easier set. And it branches up and down about 3 or 4 times depending on the test. So it gets a really nuanced feedback on what your son can do really well, which areas he can't. So within maths, it could just be that if he's got struggling with area questions, he might get a few more area questions just to work out, is it really an issue or not? If he's got great number facts, then it wouldn't give him any more of those. Or we'll give him some harder number fact questions. So we get some really good data out of our Year 7 NAPLAN testing. With that, it can be a bit of a stress for kids, and we acknowledge that. So you've got some choices here. If your child currently receives adjustments in class and works with our learning support department, we can put similar adjustments in place for NAPLAN. It could be extra time, it could be rest breaks. Sometimes it can be a different background on the screen that they see if they need a colour adjustment. Various adjustments like that we can put in place, and we send an email out on Monday just asking if you need any of that to reach out to the relevant staff, and we can go through what your options are. You also have the option to withdraw your son, but we can't recommend or advise that in any way, shape or form, but it is your parent's right if you wish to do that. And the details for that are in the letter. In terms of assessing if you do think NAPLAN is appropriate for your son or not, I'd highly recommend you go to this website. It's called the Public Demonstration Site, and it's really readily available It comes up as a first search, NAPLAN public demonstration site. Down the bottom, different year levels. So you can look at the tests and you can actually see what some of the test questions look like online. So there's a maths question, language conventions question, and one of those is a reading question. And each of them, there's a little microphone, a little play section, where the boys can sometimes have the questions read to them. So it's an adjustment that's available to all boys, whether they would normally use that in class or not. So the one up in the top right, it sort of says, spell the word that's missing. Read that sentence to them and spell the missing word. You can have the entire maths question read out as well. Obviously, the only test that doesn't do that is the reading test. They need to be able to read that for themselves. To make that happen, I highly recommend you use their own headphones. We can supply headphones, and we do have a bank of headphones for the boys if they need them and there's emergencies, but we find the success is so much better when the boys are using their own headphones that they're comfortable with, that they might already use at home on their phone or their tablet. They can be Bluetooth to be paired to their laptop. And so between now and when we do some practice tests in early March, it'll be really important that your sons are ready and equipped with a set of headphones. And we'll be doing that at year level meetings, so they'll know, they'll come home and say, I'll need my headphones on this day for a practice test. And part of that is just to make sure they work so that we don't spend the first part of NAPLAN morning troubleshooting headphones, making sure they're comfortable with them. We'll do a practice test for all those boys involved, so they log on to the system, they see what it looks like. They'll do some sample questions. They'll get to try out playing the questions back to themselves if they want to. The maths question even has a calculator, if it's a calculator allowed section. No calculator will appear. There's rulers, there's protractors. It's all built into the online system. So that's why we get the boys to practice that. But I can't stress enough, if they have their own headphones, we find the success rate is so much higher than just trying to use a spare pair on the day. So that's something in advance, if you can keep in mind, please, around NAPLAN. If you have any questions about NAPLAN, please send me an email or give me a call and I'll happily talk through what your options are around that. It could well be a learning support issue with some adjustments required, in which case we can go through what's available. Or if you're just not sure how your son will respond, we can go through in more detail any of those specifics. But I highly recommend, if you're not sure, sit down with your son, have a look at the public demonstration site. When you click on the Year 7 button at the bottom, it actually takes you through exactly what the program looks like. They have to pretend to sign in and it says, are you sample test student? So it's exactly the same process, so they can become quite familiar with what it will look like. So if your son's got not too sure about what it will be like, he can see it through that system. You can make then an informed decision around how he'll go in NAPLAN. I do encourage their participation because it's a good baseline data. They've been with us for about 5-6 weeks. So it gives us a good idea of where they're at. And then when we do it again in Year 9, we can see how much gain we get. And it's something we're pretty proud of, that we do get good relative gain between Year 7 and 9. And so the data we gather is useful. The teachers use it to help plan their lessons. They actually look at what their students can and can't do out of the math, say the math test on NAPLAN, so they can tailor their maths teaching through Year 8 and 9. So it is useful data. But any questions around NAPLAN, send me an email, give me a phone call, and we can talk through specifics. Okay, final, day claimers.
That is. This is another one that I suggest you take a photograph of. This here is a summary of things that happens throughout the year for Year 7. Swimming carnival's tomorrow. Our commitment mass and welcome mass is on Friday. We have a student free day coming up on the 21st of February. We've got Ash Wednesday ceremonies, NAPLAN, and the end of term. There are two things on here that I do really want to highlight. Term 2, we finish earlier than the primary schools. Some parents get a little bit of shock at the end of the year and they go, oh my gosh, he's home for an extra week, so just be prepared. The other one is in term 4. We have a student free day for the very last day of term. We do not have it that matches with every other school. So if you were hoping that your son would be able to babysit while you're at work that particular day while your kids in primary school are off, the days don't align. And it will feel really weird for him to be getting dressed and going to school when everybody else in the family is staying at home. We have events that happen across the year, so our academic assemblies and our awards night. If you are required to attend, you will be sent an invitation. Unfortunately, as we've gotten really big, we can't have everybody in our community join us for every event. Another key one in there is term 2, which is parent-teacher interviews. Parent-teacher interviews are done online. So you can do them from wherever you are. You get a link, you click it on your phone, and you will speak to the teacher through the laptop. I encourage you, if you wish to speak to your son's teachers, to book as soon as it opens. As we are a large school, it goes for a few hours, you only get 10 minutes, but it books up really quickly, particularly if you are trying to book that 5 to 7 p.m. window. So there are just some things that I wanted to flag with you. I know it was a lot of information. The staff are going to be here for a few minutes, so if you do have questions, you are more than welcome to come and ask us. But I just thought it was important that we go through what are the nuts and bolts of Year 7 and how you're able to access what you need to access. Anybody else? No, oh, yep, nope, the boss is going to speak.
I wasn't going to speak like Pete. But I'd put my hand up for this one. Look, just if I was sitting there with you hearing all that, my head would be full. I'd be going, where do I begin? Look, can I just say, this is recorded, so you can access it in your own time and take the time to absorb some of those PowerPoints. And like anything, please don't hesitate to ring through. Today we had an assembly and I asked the Year 7s, you know, what was their 2 days like? And I said, give us a score out of 10. 1, I hate the place. 10, I'm loving it. And I would say 95% were 8 and above. And that's what we want. We want them to first and foremost enjoy the place. We want you to enjoy the experience as parents who are supporting your son as we begin this journey together. So you need to feel free to pick up the phone, email and ask. And that's really important because sitting there, if I was you, listening to all that, I would have just felt bombarded with all this information from apps to everything else. Please take the opportunity to look at. Please don't hesitate to ask. And there's another thing that I would just say. There's something about primary and secondary schools. Primary, there's a sense you can go in and you're in the yard, you know, before pick-up and all that. But when it comes to secondary, your son's saying, don't you dare get out of that car. You do not cross that threshold. What I'm telling you very clearly, you are most welcome. And don't listen to him. You are welcome to come in, see the staff, talk to the staff, email the staff, because this is a shared journey. And we just want to make sure, as you move through, that you feel comfortable. And you feel comfortable about, what does this assignment mean? Can you break it open for me? Because schools and teachers are great at using acronyms, language, and it's a whole different language base. So we want you to be comfortable with that. So don't hesitate to say, I don't know what you're talking about. Can you break this open for me? Or I'm not sure about the uniform. That's a quick email. Okay, so we want you to enjoy the experience as much as your son. And we're in the honeymoon phase. If I ask that question in about the end of week term 1, it might be different, about 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. But it's been a great start for the group, in wonderful hands. We're really appreciative of what Trace does and Pete and Jonathan and all the teaching staff and the boarding staff and the grounds and everybody else. So thank you for coming. As I said, always feel part of the place and please don't hesitate to engage. And I just thank for everybody here and everybody who's watching online as well or who will be seeing this too. Thanks very much.
We're nearly there. Yep. Wrong one. I'll leave this one up, so if you do want to take a photo and you missed it earlier, you know how to contact Jonathan and I. Thanks, everyone.